All right. So previously, I've heard you've been very critical of some of our leaders, right? So I wanted to ask your views on Marcus Garvey. Many people have a different view of him. Some see him as a hero. Some see him as a villain. What is your view of Marcus Garvey?
Well, to me, Garvey's not a villain. Garvey deserves his flowers then and now. But as I've argued before in different forums, that all of the notables within the African world, they should be seen three-dimensionally. And even myself or any other person, three-dimensionally. And so by doing so, you allow to see them in full context, right? In all their full regalia and flaws. Because to me, what I find more fascinating is not the regalia, it's the flaws. And here's why, and this is what I mean. I can learn more from the flaws than I can from the regalia. In other words, the regalia is shiny and bright, and so building with others, the UNIA and African Communities League, as a transnational and even a global organization was, tremendous. Yes, there were follies and mistakes. Yes, there were poor decision making around finances and who to trust. Yes, Garvey in some cases acted maniacal, and within reason, given who he had to trust. And what was at stake? The African world. In a time of heightened and intense European colonization of Africa, right? And so seeing him in his full three-dimensionality, to me, allows for more appreciation, not less. And we can remove villainy from the table, right? That's for the other people who again, want to demean and demolish, the work of Garvey, right? But his flaws are important. Just like Malcolm, getting 4 hours of sleep is and being unhealthy. You've seen pictures of Garvey, right? And so doing the work of one's people is not antithetical to doing the work of family and of self-care. And that's what I mean by I find the flaws more fascinating, because the flaws to me are windows, are opportunities to say what we should be working on rather than what we should be glorifying. Because glorifying leads to stagnation and comfort. Those are, to borrow a line from Nas, the cousins of death. Right? When you're comfortable and stagnated, you're close to dying.
I want to say real quick, I learned a lot from Garvey. I see a connection between Garvey and Malcolm X Garvey and Thomas Sankara in regards to their shortcomings, right? That we can learn from. I think both were too committed to the cause more than their family. I think you got to find a balance. That's for Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. But with Marcus Garvey and Thomas Sankara, I think they had the ambition. They overextended themselves. They didn't have the resources and the team to execute the ideas that they had.
So, I hear you. I'll push back only a bit on the resources, because I might have said this before, in our previous chats, that resources is really an excuse and sometimes a overblown necessity. Yes, resources are necessary, but the most important resources are the people and their commitment. And so if I have a group of committed people, the group can be 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, and they're committed, I don't worry about resource, because there's that S word, sharing, right? 5 of us, 10 of us, can stack up in a minivan, right? We don't need, keyword need, a chartered bus, right? I remember when I was part of this African fraternity as an undergrad, our fraternity brothers come and visit. We were like 10 deep in my dorm room. You know as men do, head to feet. 3 of us on the bed, 3 of us on the floor. We had a rug. 2 of us on the couch. We make it work. And so that's about 2 things: people and commitment. We were people, brothers, and we were committed to the organization and each other, right?
But I should have, maybe the wrong word is not, I used the wrong word, not resources. Mm-hmm. I guess people skilled at what they're supposed to do. Because Thomas Sankara did utilize people, but they weren't skilled, or he didn't have enough time to train them to actually execute the mission.
And that's great. And by the way, this wasn't, necessarily personal to you. I'm saying for folks in general, they made the argument, I don't have the money. We don't have the resources, right? We don't have enough. We need funding, really. And so, look no further, your ancestors. What 401k they had? What, trust fund did they have? What foundation were giving them grants? You see what I'm saying? That to me is an excuse. So again, it wasn't necessarily personal, and I want to suggest that, right? But just for our viewers, that that's often a excuse, a blatant excuse for not doing, right? Let's look further than the ancestors. So people and their commitment, and the truth for Sankara. I'm not sure about time as it was about the timing. Someone like Sankara, I don't think it's a matter of time, but timing, right? Much like Garvey. In terms of when they come on the scene, what are the conditions that are there, right? Some people say that Garvey was before his time, right? You hear that kind of saying, oh, Sankara was before the time, or Lumumba before their time. So I think timing does matter, right? In terms of when people come on the scene with their ideas or with their vision. Sometimes the timing is not there. The conditions, for example, may not be in line with the vision, right? So imagine Garvey in 2020 when Black Lives Matter jumped on the scene. And rather than Black Lives Matter, UNIA. You see what I'm saying? It's a wrap. So sometimes it's the timing of certain ideas and visions that come on the scene because the conditions sometimes dictate what should be. So for me, and this is about strategy, right? I can't fault Sankara because there's a lot that that resonates with me in terms of Sankara's vision. But when you make something like that as a vision public, you bring certain attention. There's a way in which I think about the revolutions in Amilcar Cabral, who was a strategist, but he also was an agronomist. Know the land. He used the land with the people to fight against the Portuguese, right? And so to me, that marriage between knowing the land, agronomy and farming, and knowing the people and their culture, combined together, operated covertly, right? Having these camps, being mobile. So what I'm suggesting is that don't be movement-oriented and grandiose. Be maroon. Be guerrilla. Be strategic, right? Be hush harbor, like in the South, right? Yeah, Be covert. Bringing attention to yourself will undo the very thing you're trying to accomplish, right? So I'm saying for Sankara and others, it is saying, we want to do this and making it public, right? We want to actualize this, right? Or Nkrumah telling, again, not picking on Nkrumah again, but he's there, he's on the ballot, on the slate. Telling the British, we want independence now. Independence was granted, which means it's not independence, right? That's a concession. So Cabral, he didn't ask the Portuguese for independence. You see? So I think you can learn more from Cabral than Sankara in the sense of strategy and bringing attention to yourself, giving the conditions in which you find yourself. If you are anti-colonialist, if you are insurgent, if you are revolutionary against colonial forces, you can't speak about the very thing you want to them, especially in their idiom. In Sankara's case, French, right? And so using the language, using the landscape, and using the culture, that's the winning formula. And being what? A combination of being maroon and being guerrilla and being covert, right? All these successful anti-colonial, struggles were guerrillas, were maroonage, were using the forest, using the landscape. So whether it's in Guinea-Bissau or Mozambique or in Angola, right, was using those strategies. Think about this. We aggrandize and praise African independence, but most of them were granted. What was that? The ones that weren't, they have a different sensibility about their independence than those that were granted. Think about the neo-colonial relationship, right? So I say that to say that one like Sankara, what I learned from him, all the flaws in terms of strategy, given the conditions and the timing which he came on the scene. But I rate his vision highly. There's lots to love about Sankara. But as I said before, I find more that's useful, as usable from the flaws than from the praise poetry.